Yeah. Okay, cool. Rachel, seeing as you've made the effort to come along this morning, do you want to just talk to us about what you're doing with, say, yourself and with clients potentially in how you're helping others get out of isolation in this COVID environment? Do you want to, just putting you on the spot, but I'm sure you've got plenty to talk about around this. So,
I've been really fortunate that my business hasn't actually changed that much. When COVID started, I had to change a couple of in-person workshops online. Majority of my clients have also really thrived through this time. They've either grown or they've taken the time to actually reassess what they're doing. Probably my hardest hit client is a restaurant, and they're a restaurant and also supply food for restaurant chains as well. They're struggling to get out of COVID at the moment. So I think I'm just working with everyone. When COVID started, I just worked on the theory that I needed to nurture my community and the people in it. And I did a lot of free stuff and a lot of online stuff. And yeah, I'm working with them at the moment to help them reopen, get started again, and also sort of work through some stuff that they had happened through COVID as well. So look, I don't know if there's an answer to it. I remember having a conversation with a business when COVID started and saying that this was uncharted territory because we've never been through a pandemic before and we've never had to drive our businesses through it either. And just the same as when we're coming out of COVID, out of isolation and opening up, we haven't done it before. So we have to work within the rules of what the government's telling us to work within. So how many people per square feet and all the rest. So I don't really have a plan for me. It'll just be for this particular client, it's working within the requirements of government and also ensuring that their staff are safe and their customers are safe. And personally, I'm fed up with it. I'm done. I'm ready to just but I'm also cautiously done with it, I suppose.
No, look, I think a lot of us are feeling that way. But I just thought, with your clientele and the way you go about life and business, I thought it'd be interesting just to hear your insights on that. And, there's always someone out there that you might listen to this back and just connect with it and just say, I can see where you were coming from. But so is Paul, yourself in your part of the world, is there anything that's sort of going on that, you could pass on to businesses that may be struggling right now or wondering what they should be doing, or is there something you're noticing?
People are still interested in starting businesses or buying businesses even. And I think they're quite optimistic that things are going to get back to the way they were. In a lot of cases, more quickly than in other cases. I read this morning that we can expect no international travellers arriving until next year. Sovereign Hill are going back for 3 days a week, starting on the 26th, I think it is, of June. So school holidays, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and who knows when it'll move to more days than that. So look, it depends. It depends. Retail, this lady wants to buy a clothing cafe business, and she's probably signing the paperwork this week. So yeah, they're not giving up, and they're moving forward. Birds don't fly backwards, is what I tell people. So just keep on going ahead.
Yep. No, fantastic advice. Bill, now I'm sure you've been super busy in this period with people sort of questioning how to do X, Y, and Z in the accounting world. I won't try to even explain what you do, but do you want to maybe I know you're presenting on this today, but is there anything else outside your presentation that you might be able to pass on in this sort of get out of isolation sort of topic?
Yeah, it's been a really difficult time. We as public accountants have been exceptionally busy, the same as every other public accountant, answering queries and trying to help clients. So has been absolutely full on for the last 3 months or so, as well as doing our normal work.
Yep.
I agree with Rachel. I think the hospitality industry has been hit really hard, particularly hotels and restaurants, and I've found that firsthand. Without JobKeeper, they wouldn't be able to continue, and some of them have been able to adapt okay to the takeaway and the home deliveries, that sort of thing. Some haven't. The ones that have adapted, I'm finding, are just keeping their head above water. They're getting sufficient income to pay their costs, but not much else. So it's a matter of survival to try and get through this, come out the other end.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I don't think they all will. That's what I'm seeing. So the quicker this is over, the better for, you know, from all angles. Business-wise, it's been very busy for us. Some of our businesses have been very, very busy. It's worked out well for them. An example of that is a retail timber yard who are supplying people who are doing projects at home, and you know, they've done really well. And a couple of other ones that have benefited from this. But overall, it's been pretty bad for business, and we just hope we're going to come out the other side okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Time will tell, and I'm so glad when it's all over.
Yeah, no, look, I've had similar experiences across all the industries I work with, but the one thing that I've noticed with all of the clients I work with is the ones that consistently just reached out and gave messages and communicated with their clientele, they surprisingly did okay, because it's just that community spirit. And when people kind of shared what they were going through, people just lifted up and either did things for them or helped them out or whatever. So I've seen some really amazing things happen with clients who've struggled through this. So it's going to be interesting when we look back on this. It's going to have, yes, there's going to be lots of pictures of people on the couches watching Netflix, but there'll be a whole bunch of other things that'll come up that just to be amazing to see, you know, how people got through this. And basically, we're not out of it or over it yet. It's really like, that's why I was talking about getting out of isolation, because this is the next phase of it. It's sort of now we're going to go back and start, you know, mingling again, and it's going to have a whole bunch of things. And it's not just mingling, you know, like we used to. It's with restrictions, with sort of, you know, rules and regulations for a while. It's not just jump back straight into life. So yeah, it's going to be quite interesting. And I think a lot of people are struggling with that rules and regulations and authority, or, you know, like they feel like they're being told what to do. And there's just natural humans who want to rebel against that, when it's quite clear that we're just trying to keep us all as safe as possible and not become America in the sense of an example of how it's not going well. So, you know, it's sort of interesting to see the balance of power against responsibility and economic. It's an interesting time. So we'll see what happens, and look forward to seeing how we all come out of it and go from there. But I was going to pass to Dorothy, but she's disappeared there. So I'll make that the end of the education period. But I think it's just useful to share how we're all finding it and what we're learning, and go from there. And if you want to add anything, I'm more than happy if anyone's got anything further to add to it. But
probably just, sorry, Chris, if I can just jump in there.
Okay.
I've found from a personal human point of view that clients have appreciated just a telephone call and see, how are you going? And they might be going very badly, but they appreciate that someone takes the time out just to give them a call, say hello, you know, rather than an email. So we've been fairly active in that, and in most circumstances, I've found that clients are very appreciative, and they appreciate the fact that you've taken the time out just to ring them and say hello, you know, how are things going? So regardless of anything else, I think, you know, just the human nature, you know, you've got to try and help out any way that you possibly can.
yeah, no, exactly. In the presentations I've done previously, Dorothy, I think, has been part of a few of those, is that I've mentioned that exact thing. Just reach out, pick up the phone and call. And to be honest, every client I've done it to, I've had some amazing response. And I'd say like pretty much 9 out of 10 or more have been a conversation where I've actually been able to say, oh, you should talk to. And that one conversation that led to them talking to that person, they call me back so appreciative of that reach out, and then they started doing business with someone, or they pivoted and did something different and they got excited and energized again. So I agree with you, Bill. If you haven't called someone in a while, give them a big call and a shout out, and just reach out. You just never know where that conversation will go. It doesn't mean it's going to be something for you either. It just means that you may help someone who just didn't realize they needed that call, and you never know where it can take them. So I appreciate that, Bill. That's a great share. So fantastic. Dorothy, I know you had kids stuff going on there, but if there's anything you'd like to share in your period of isolation, what you're finding or how you're getting out of it, or how you're helping people, or whatever the case is. So,
for me, the most thing I had to change was having to have online meetings versus face-to-face stuff. But some of my clients have been impacted, and I just met with them earlier this week, and we were making plans for how they're going to come out of this. And one of them, the tutor, and her business actually grew through the period because people wanted to, kids weren't coping with remote learning at home and they needed tutoring. So she provided that tutoring online.
Mm-hmm.
And she's now looking whether she wants to start taking an office space again.
Right.
And another is a textile designer, or surface designer, and she's again, and part of her business is selling to retail shops, which of course had to close. So again, we will begin planning for how she's going to start ringing shops again to get her products stocked. So yes, people are starting to think about and plan for how they're going to come out of this. Yeah.
Sorry, I was muted there in response to that. So yeah, no, that's fantastic. And that's what I'm saying. It's just all these little tips. Hopefully if someone does watch this back, they'll get something out of everything that you've all shared there. So